Hello, everyone, and welcome to the PPW podcast. I'm Edmund Keith, the editor of Online Marketplaces. Joining me today are Harvey Hancock, who is a writer for us. Hi, Harvey. How are you doing?
Very good, thank you, Ed. Thanks for having me along, as always.
No worries. And our boss, a man with many titles, investor, property portal veteran, and chairman of Online Marketplaces, Simon Baker. Simon, how are you doing?
Thanks, Ed. I'm feeling very old by that introduction, but it's great to see you guys.
Okay, the first one of these episodes, I wanted to focus on probably what is going to be, for us, the biggest story of the year. So this involves CoStar, and it involves Homes.com and OnTheMarket. And basically what we're going to be talking about today is, can Homes.com and OnTheMarket become CoStar's market leaders in the US and the UK market? It's a big topic. There's a lot to talk about. I think we'll probably start by just kind of introing who these names are and why they're so interesting. Firstly, Simon, who are CoStar? Who are they? Who's their boss? Why are they so interesting?
Yeah, so CoStar is a large US player. It's been around for a very long period of time. I don't know the exact time, 25 years, operating primarily in the commercial real estate industry, have done a fantastic job at growing their business year on year, and have more recently decided that they want to get into the residential real estate segment of the market. Historically, they were mostly focused in the US with some operations, some small operations in Europe that they had purchased over the years. And this acquisition of OnTheMarket was probably the biggest and most noisy move by the business into non-US markets.
Okay, I guess I'll introduce Homes.com. So Homes.com was, let's call it, a challenger real estate portal in the US. Not a particularly successful challenger, as I understand. I mean, not losing money hand over fist or anything, but not up there with Zillow and Realtor.com. It's obviously a great domain name, Homes.com. It's a nice domain to have if you want to build a real estate portal, right? CoStar came along and bought Homes.com along with an agent software platform called HomeSnap between 2020 and 2021. And since then, they've been ramping up kind of the content that's on Homes.com and very slowly but surely ramping up the PR of Homes.com. And well, we'll get to it in a bit, but now they're claiming that Homes.com is the #2 real estate portal by traffic in the whole US market. I'm going to leave OnTheMarket to Harvey. Explain to us who OnTheMarket are and why we're talking about them. We've been, CoStar and Homes.com, these are American companies. Why are we talking about OnTheMarket today?
So OnTheMarket is UK's de facto #3 player behind Rightmove and Zoopla. Predominantly agent owned. The main advertising campaign was, let's call the list with one other portal option. You can only list on Rightmove or Zoopla if you're going to list with us. But it never quite took off. It never really got the traction and the scale that it wanted to achieve. And to be bought for £100 million by a major US portal is a pretty big deal. And I think it's shot right up the rankings pretty quickly. And I think we can look forward to some pretty big headlines coming out of OnTheMarket, particularly in the next 12 to 18 months or so.
Okay, so those headlines are why we want to talk about this. CoStar has bought up Homes.com. It's bought up OnTheMarket. And unusually for one of these cases, its CEO, Andy Florence, who founded CoStar in 1987, has publicly come out and said, at least for Homes.com, that he wants and kind of even expects to overtake Zillow as the market leader. This is pretty unusual, right? Simon, you interviewed Andy Florence on stage at Property Portal Watch a couple of months ago. What impressions did you get about his intentions with this?
He's very confident in their capacity to do it. And I think they're very happy with the current progress of Homes.com to date in the US. They had a press release, I think, wasn't it saying they were was it reached #2 or?
I think it was like a day before you interviewed him. They had that press release.
Yeah. Now, great, and that was done on I think it was Nielsen Net Ratings or one of these sites. I mean, like all these things, you then sort of duck on and check on some other like SimilarWeb, etc., which may give a different perspective on it all. But that doesn't really matter. They're aggressively going into the homes segment of the market, and the question is, the US is a very different game, right? Where it is fundamentally a freemium model. The listings are available to everyone because of MLS systems, and it's just a case of how you best monetize them. And we've seen for many, many years Zillow try to monetize the agent base through their premium agent type models. And the fundamental challenges with them is that you have a lot of churn. They come on, they advertise, promote their own listings. They then disappear for a while and come back because the listings are the common element that keeps staying. Now, that's very different to the rest of the world and the United Kingdom, where you have to get the agent to give you the listing. And if the agent doesn't give you the listing, you don't have the listing. So this is a pay to list model versus a freemium type advertising model. Now, in a freemium model, it's all about how much money you can throw at advertising to get the eyeballs, in the hope that eyeballs look at listings. Listings equals lead generation. And in that lead generation process, you find a way to monetize either for some sort of lead qualification out the back or lead enhancement, maybe monetization through branding that you put around the listing, because remember, in the US, you have both a buyer's agent and a seller's agent, and they're splitting 6% commission. So the underlying market dynamics are very, very different. And if you're in the US,
that might be the biggest difference between these two models. This is why it's so interesting. Everywhere else in the world, if I wanted to start the Ed, Harvey and Simon real estate portal, I would have to go to every single real estate agent and ask them to give me their listings, and they would have to build me an XML feed or something. And it's this huge involved process. In the US,
yes,
it doesn't work like that, and that is really fundamental here. Harvey, you last year covered a lot of real estate challenger portals in the UK. How hard is it for these I want to call them, I don't want to call them dreamers, because we know and like a lot of them, but it seems like their biggest challenge is this listings issue that we're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. UK portals, especially challengers, are going up against one of the biggest behemoths in world portal industry. You have the REA Group, you have Zillow, and you have Rightmove right at the very top of the global leadership rankings. To try and steal any market share of Rightmove is going to take a hell of a lot of money and a hell of a lot of effort, and there's not very many people who have that much time and resource available to them. OnTheMarket is the closest that has come closest to trying to compete, but even that has been a 10-year journey of not really a whole lot of success. And the overall outlook, especially from a UK perspective, is basically don't bother, you're not going to get anywhere. It's not a great feeling for these young portals that are trying to innovate, that are trying to grow a new look market, are trying to build the industry into something new. But the harsh reality is that they're up against a fairly old-fashioned, but also gigantic portal in the shape of Rightmove.
Okay, so in terms of listings, we know that homes.com's got all the listings in the US. We can tick that off. It's got those. In terms of listings in the UK, OnTheMarket has most of the listings. I think when I looked, the last time they released their figures for how many agencies they have listing with them, there were about 6,000 agencies down on the figure that Rightmove has, right? And it is a bit of an issue, but not a massive issue. So they had to pull out of Northern Ireland, for example, because they didn't have enough listings. That's not official, by the way. That's just people have told us. We'll say that that's a tick for homes.com, and it's not a huge problem, but it's a surmountable problem for OnTheMarket. We'll move on to business model.
But wait a second.
Again, is pretty interesting.
Ed, I'm gonna have a challenge on that one, right? If you think about listings, you can either ask agents to give you the listings for free, or you can ask agents to pay to give you the listings, right? and in return, I'll send you leads. Now, you even if you get to the same number of listings as a Rightmove on your site, the question is, will the agents be paying the same amount of money to put them on the market versus Rightmove? And the answer is no, because it's a much smaller site in terms of traffic. And the fundamental problem out of all of this is in the UK, agent commissions are at 1%. And out of that 1%, you've got to pay, for your advertising. And you're already paying a sizable percentage of that the commission to Rightmove. So the real challenge is to convince an agent not to advertise on Rightmove and advertise on OnTheMarket. That to me is the real challenge. And that is going to be incredibly hard to do. Because if you do that, you'll free up the spend that was going on to Rightmove so they could then be redirected onto OnTheMarket. Because I can't believe that CoStar is going to be a charity and just keep funding this at a loss forever, right? They want to get to profitability. And the question is how much they're willing to throw at that to get to a meaningful, profitable state.
Could I give you a follow-up question on that, Simon?
I think we can do a segue from that to business model. So, okay, you're saying that how do you as on the market or even homes.com, I mean, this doesn't really apply in homes.com's case, but how do you get agents to not list on Rightmove? They may or may not list with you, but how do you get them to not list with Rightmove? I think what on the market want to do, or their big bet, I think, will be what they call their only with us listings. Now, these are listings where the agent gives that property to on the market 24 hours or 48 hours before they go on Rightmove or Zoopla, right? When I spoke to on the market CEO Jason Tebb last year, he said that there was between 4 and 7% of the portal's listings were these only with us listings, right? And I don't know what you guys think, but to me, looking at the situation, it looks like that's pretty much the only point of difference they've got, at least when it comes to consumers, right? And if I were on the market, I would be leaning into that pretty heavily. I don't know what you guys think.
I believe that is pretty much going to be the main pillar for on the market, trying to boost customer sentiments for home buyers and sellers in the UK. And I think they're going to have to do a hell of a lot of advertising, probably on television, to get that kind of traction. We know that they're willing to spend 46 million on marketing in the next 12 months. I wouldn't be at all surprised to see a vast majority of it just go towards pumping that message out there into the TV watching audience, into online advertising, and just see if they can sweep up as many leads as possible.
Yeah, they've got to probably up that percentage a bit. 4% listings is not a huge amount. It's not worth throwing all the money at the advertising unless you've got, let's say, 25% of our listings are exclusive for 24 hours. That is a message that kind of works.
Okay. Ed, I'm gonna have a counterpoint. Who cares? Do you know anyone who buys a house 24 hours beforehand? Like, in that short period of time? Rentals, I get.
I'm a millennial, Simon. I don't know anyone who buys a house, full stop.
Exactly, right? So you guys have got a problem, right? But the fundamental issue here is no one's buying a house in a 24-hour period. They may be getting a rental property because there's a scarcity in rentals. But in today's economic climate, no one's going, oh my God, it's on the market. I've got fantastic. It's there 24 hours before everyone else. Great, I can secure the listing. They're not doing that. People are doing their research. They're going to work out very quickly that it's going to turn up on Rightmove anyway, and they'll keep going by. Remember, you're asking consumers to change habit, and that's the hardest thing to do in any market, is to get someone to change a habit. So I don't think that 24 hours makes any difference.
Okay, right? All right. So let's put you. You've been in charge of one of these big portals. Let's put you in the shoes of Jason Tebb for a minute, who's the CEO of On The Market. What's your point of your point of difference with the agents to get them to list is, hey, we're not Rightmove, we're friendlier. I'm an ex-agent myself. We used to be run by agents. You've got the PR with the agents down. You're good at that bit. What's your you're lying to consumers? Why should they look at On the Market and not Rightmove? We can take a break here if you want.
I think you're going to have to take a long break, because I actually don't think there's a legitimate one. I actually don't think there is a legitimate reason to look, and the consumers will work it out. The thing is, I've learned with dealing with way too many portals over a very long period of time, is that consumers will always see a way through the crap, right? So what is it? So how did Zoopla get a good advance against Rightmove? It offered the Zestimate. Okay, was there
Hang on,
no?
we're
That was
talking about
Zillow.
Zillow here.
Yeah, but Zoopla had its own estimate model. I can't remember what it was called.
Yeah, they were the first ones to do that in the UK market.
In the UK, right? So they said you can find out what your house is worth by looking at us. So they engaged their audience through a different lens. I think if you're basically saying, if you look at it, right, I've got the same listings as Rightmove, because I can't believe if I am someone selling a house and you're a real estate agent, okay, and I say, right, here's your exclusive agreement for 3 months. I'm going to pay you 1% commission for selling my house. Okay, get on with it. And then I'm going online and I'm looking at Rightmove, of course, because I'm looking at these numbers here, and according to SimilarWeb, they've got 85 million monthly visits, right? So there's a lot of visits, okay? And I'm going online going, where's my house? And you go to the agent, and the agent goes, well, sorry, you're not on Rightmove, but I've put you on the market. And I've gone, on the what? Where? Right? And the agent, who absolutely is a middle person, the portal is a middle person, the agent is a middle person, right? Where they're part of the process. They are not the buyer, they're not the seller, they're just representatives. So the agent is going to have to choose, well, do I have a fight with my vendor to tell them, no, you're not on Rightmove because I wanted to save money? You're going to tell me no one looks there? Come on. It's been the market leader for 25 years. You can't tell me no one looks there. So then the agent will be compelled to put it on Rightmove. And Rightmove will end up, if Rightmove starts to see listings only on the market and not on them, they will do what we did at REA back in 2006. We had an on the market type equivalent called Real Estate View in Victoria. Okay, agent run website, industry owned. It still exists today.
Yeah, not industry owned anymore.
No, but it was industry owned for a very long time, and they had the Gang of Seven, or whatever they call it, these major real estate agents in Melbourne, and they weren't advertising on REA. And so the only thing we did was, well, we worked out what listings were on them and not on us, and we wrote a letter via the post to the owner of the house, because we knew the house address, and said, do you realize your house is not on realestate.com.au? And do you realize that last month 10,000 people searched in your suburb? And do you realize you missed out on selling your house? Talk to your real estate agent. Okay. You've never seen real estate agents sign up faster, because they worked out they can fight with me for sending the letter, or they can fight with the person who's actually going to give them a commission. They chose not to fight with the person having a commission. So I just don't buy the fact that you're going to have a true differentiator in all of this, and that you'll throw a lot of money at it, and you'll make some waves, you'll get some noise, but my guess is we'll look at this in 12 months' time, and the market structure will be the same. Okay,
so we're saying that there's no differentiator as far as on the market goes with UK consumers.
Not really.
Where I think there is a differentiator is with homes.com in the US market. And I think there is a very clear differentiator both with agents and with consumers. So Harvey, why don't you tell us how Zillow works right now? If you went on Zillow, how does the process work of you clicking on a listing and becoming a lead? Who do you get put in contact with?
Well, therein lies the problem, doesn't it? Because Zillow is it doesn't mind who it sends you to, whether you're a buyer agent, whether you're a seller agent. I think my understanding of the process, and you'll have to throw me some rope on this one, is because I'm not a master on the US market. But my understanding is that as a home seller, I have two agents that I'm going to be interacting with. Basically, as a vendor, I'm going to be working with a buyer agent and a seller agent, and that's fine for Zillow, but it maybe isn't perfect for agents who could end up losing a commission that they think they've justifiably earned to somebody else. Am I sort of on the right tracks here, Ed?
So yeah, kind of. So the issue is that Zillow monetizes the buyer agent, right? So and that buyer agent might not know anything about the house in question. So if you're a lead on Zillow, you are interested in the house, you fill in the form, you send the form off, you become a lead. That lead will go to agent X, who may have nothing to do with the property. That agent is just looking to, show the buyer that they represent around that property, pretty much. On the other hand, homes.com is using, I guess we'll call it the European model, where it sends the lead not to any random buyer agent, it sends it to the agent who actually lists the property. So there is, a point of difference when it comes to the user. There's also a point of difference when it comes to the business model, where what they're trying to do is, I guess, the freemium model, where everyone gets listed on their portal and you only pay if you want extra exposure or you want kind of lots of different add-on services around the edge of that. This is completely new, it's worth saying, for the US residential market, but it's not completely new when it comes to the US in general. What they call the multifamily market, so that's like big residential buildings, already works like this. The question mark, the only real question mark seems to be, are these agents going to pick up on it? Are they going to be willing to pay for more exposure, or are they just going to have free leads? So, I mean, in your experience, how difficult is it for a real estate portal to use this freemium model where they say everybody is allowed on our platform and you only pay us if you want extra visibility or extra services? How difficult is it to work that?
It's super hard. We take Machula. Machula worked that great. I mean, I was the chairman of the Machula group for a long time before we listed it and then sold it. And that is the same concept. It works on a freemium model. Freemium operates in many industries. So, and the underlying metrics always work out about the same, is somewhere between 7 to 10% of the free convert to paying. Okay, which means 90% don't, right? And the challenge with that is that they convert to paying, they pay for a while, they then churn, then someone else you've got to, so you have this loop of continuing to have to sell. And if you dig into the Zillow numbers from and I haven't looked at this for years now, but their cost of sales was, cost of signing up new customers, the sales team was enormous, because they sold all these premium type packages. Some of their listings were upgraded, and some of the agents, they would spend money for a while. They would then stop spending. You'd have to then sign up a new person to replace them. And it was very hard to grow your revenues, because you're spending as much time filling the churn, what you've lost, with getting new customers. So freemium models are very, very hard long-term to really build a strong revenue generating and profitability generating, more important, EBITDA positive businesses. And in the portal space, not a lot that I can think of, not even the prop tech space really, are super large and super profitable operating on that freemium type model.
Okay, I want to engage with some hypotheticals for a minute. So maybe I'm being cynical here, but I think that Andy Florence and CoStar are looking to not just buy homes.com and OnTheMarket. I think they're going to buy other assets, certainly in Europe. And if I'm honest with you, I think they tried to buy Zoopla and were pushed back. And I, just personal opinion here, I think that their plan in the UK is to not go after Rightmove, but to go after Zoopla, which is the number 2 player, and basically devalue Zoopla to the point where Zoopla's US private equity owner, Silver Lake, is in a position to sell it at a reduced price. Does that sound mad?
No, I don't think it's mad. So it's not, your thoughts aren't mad. Let's break down the madness. Okay. The thoughts aren't mad. I mean, if the reality is, if you're third in a race, to win the race, you've got to pass number 2. Last time I looked, right? So if I was in on the market shoes, I'd be saying, how do I beat Zoopla? Because if I can't beat Zoopla, I can't beat Rightmove. Okay. Yes, you'll grab the headlines. I'm going after Rightmove. We're going to, we spend 46 million on marketing and yada, 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 which, by the way, I think is what percentage of Rightmove's profit? 30% of their profit or something?
I don't know off the top of my head. I know it's 3 times more than what Rightmove spent on sales and marketing last year.
But they don't have to. But
Rightmove,
I mean, remember,
Rightmove can always spend more. They've got loads of money.
Think about it the following. Rightmove has a EBITDA margin of 70, whatever it is, 75% or whatever it is, right? So if they'd said, well, this year I'm just going to operate at a 50% EBITDA margin and I'm just going to spend all that on marketing. And the only reason I'm going to do that is not to is to really suck oxygen out of the air. I'm not going to gain market share. I've already got 85 million views. I've already got 3 or 4 times what Zoopla's got, and I've got about 8 times what, or 7 times what On the Market has. But I'm just going to suck the oxygen out of the air, right? Because if the buyer and rental world is already attuned to looking at Rightmove, I've just got to make sure that they don't actually hear the other guy, because they'll still look at me, right? I don't have to change behavior. I've just got to make sure that the other guy doesn't get heard. So I just spend that money for a year. How many years can you continue to spend 46 million pounds if you're on the market? The answer is you're not going to have to do that for 2 or 3 years unless you're demonstrating really good results. And for Rightmove, it's not, it might be a slight hiccup, but if you look at their share price, the market went, oh my God, the world's changing. And then they sort of woke up the next day and went, wait a second, this is a lot harder to do.
I was looking at Rightmove share price just before we got on this call, and
back to where it was.
We actually wrote a story today about their share price dropped 7%, and oh wow, isn't that a big drop? Over the last year, it's dropped that, it's done that about 4 or 5 times, and it's always come back.
Yeah. Because at the end of the day, they've done what you can't do in 10 minutes, and they've taken 25 years to do, is build a brand that's equivalent to the industry. I mean, you don't talk about vacuum cleaning, you talk about hoovering, right? There's these sort of brands that are synonymous with an industry.
Okay.
And in the UK,
coming back to the hypothetical, do you, hand in the fire time, trying to get, a little clip of this podcast we can use, do you think that CoStar might end up buying Zoopla as well?
Oh, they'd have a play. If I was them, in for a penny, in for a pound. So if you're going to do this, you're going to do it properly. And buying On the Market was just a taster. You've bought number 3 player. Now you try to buy number 2, put the 2 together. You're still half the size of Rightmove, but you've sucked out, there's 2 horses in the race rather than 3.
I agree with Simon. We're on phase 0 right now, and we're 3 months into CoStar being in the UK. They have not even started yet. I think the plan is, as you say, Ed, destabilize Zoopla, hoover both up. Let's get some CoStar data, some CoStar people. We've done it in the US. We can do it in the UK. And let's show these old fuddy-duddies at Rightmove what it looks like to be a forward-thinking, innovative business. Yeah. I think it's going to be a 5-year plan as opposed to a 12-month plan.
But I think at the end of the day, we will look back in 5 years and it'll still be, well, in 5 years' time, we'll be looking and we'll be still Rightmove. And who knows, number 2, but does it really matter? And my question would be, if you look globally over the last 20, I've been doing this for nearly 25 years next year, 25 years. And I remember the number of times I've had people say to me, hey, we're going to knock off REA, we're going to knock off Rightmove, we're going to knock off Scout 24, we're going to knock off Idealista and so on. And here we are.
But
still looks the same.
I'd give you a bit of pushback there, Simon, and say maybe CoStar doesn't necessarily want to overtake Rightmove. Let's not focus on being the number 1 player in the UK. Let's focus on being the number 1 multinational portal group in Europe, and we don't need to be the number one in the UK to be the strongest pan-European player, where we have presence in Spain, Italy, Germany, Denmark, so on and so forth. Maybe are we focusing too much on the Rightmove angle and perhaps ignoring the potential for CoStar to be putting feelers out into wider European markets instead?
No, I'll push back on that one only because I can.
Go on then.
Right,
please do.
There's long been this belief that one platform can operate either A, across multiple countries, or B, the underlying technology will power multiple brands in different countries. And time again, people have tried to do that. And time again, it has not really worked, because each country has differences in how they operate. I mean, I can go back to when we owned Australia, New Zealand, UK, Italy, Greater Luxembourg region, Dubai, and Hong Kong. Okay. And we had that view. We could pull it all together, put it under one platform, and so on. And what we worked out at the end of that process was the technology costs of moving to one platform were enormous. B, the underlying way each market operates was actually different, sometimes subtly different, but different in how things, how the processes work. Brands operate differently, languages are different, and so on. So I think at best you end up being a investment fund that owns businesses across. But you know, you might as well be out of Vinta, you might as well be any of the other guys who are already invested in multiple countries, either as PEs or as operators around this. You know, look at Frontier Digital Ventures. If you want to look at a micro scale, right? At the end of the day, they've got, was it 10 or 15 different businesses operating around the world. They're not on one platform, right? And they've been doing that for 15 years. Okay, it's the theory is incredibly easy to say, incredibly easy. You know, it's 15 seconds and you're done. But
this
the
is something
execution
that
is enormously hard. And having been
this
there,
issue is one we're going to do a separate podcast on. It's on my list of subjects that are interesting and don't have like a nice, concise, easy answer. We'll talk about that a different day. For now, fellas, I'm going to get you to put your hand in the fire and tell me whether you think homes.com and or on the market can actually achieve market leadership. Simon, we'll start with you. Nice and concise. Which ones do you think could be market leaders?
None.
Okay.
Well,
Harvey,
sorry.
what you say?
Technically, neither. Because it's
neither.
I'm going to say
in 10 years' time, who's going to be the market leader in the UK and the US?
Rightmove and Zillow.
Yes.
Fair enough.
I don't think it will change, because there's too much invested in these businesses. There's too much free cash flow. There's too much. It's almost too big to fail.
Too popular.
And by that I don't mean someone's going to fund them out as with the banks, but it's just the embedded psyche of the community. I mean, your generation is growing up now, and you don't think of looking at, I don't know, whatever newspaper you were looking at. No, you don't look at newspapers, but whatever newspapers we're looking at for houses. Nowadays, it's like Rightmove. Yeah, that's the first place to look at, right? Because that's what you so someone's got to dislodge that in your brain, Rightmove. If you think shopping, you think Amazon first. Then you might think eBay, then you might think of a few others. Okay. So these brands have done, you think car share, you think Uber first, then you might think Lyft, you might think whoever, right? So the problem is that all these industries are faced with the very same challenge, which is first mover advantage is an amazingly powerful tool. And if you've got it, you have to work really hard to screw it up.
Okay, on that slightly depressing note, we will end.
Well, it depends. If you're Rightmove, it's not depressing.
It's depressing if you're trying to run a challenger real estate portal, which probably some of our audience will be.
Yes,
if anyone wants to know
but Ed, on that point, there is a valid approach, and that is find a very interesting, profitable niche and execute it incredibly well, because the big boys can't go after the niche.
Okay.
Right.
Niches, profitable niches. Find yourself one of those.
Yes.
Gents, thank you for joining me today. Simon, Harvey, I'm sure we'll be back on next week talking about something similar, perhaps talking about cross-border real estate portals. Until then, thank you, and see you next week.
Okay. Thank you.
Bye-bye.